and your mortal wound, 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 and your mortal wound.
Anvil of War! Let's talk tactics!
Today on Let's Talk Tactics, we're talking about the Sicarian Infiltrators. These guys are some of my favorite models in the Adeptus Mechanicus collection. They have this awesome robotic feel, very like augmented. All their limbs have been augmented to make them more efficient killers. They're infiltrators, so they infiltrate. They're meant to jump in behind the enemy lines. Second turn, unfortunately, because of the FAQ. But they jump in and they get stuck in. They can charge a unit with their high strength, especially if they're rocking the taser goads. And they have a high complement of shots if you're using the flechette blasters as well. So these guys' stat lines come in at 8-inch movement, which is pretty decent. They move quickly across the battlefield. They have a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 3+, which is good. They have a strength of 4, toughness 3, 2 wounds apiece, 2 attacks apiece, and a leadership of 6. When they're running with the Princeps, which they always start with, they're going to be running a leadership of 7, which is average. They have a 4+ armor save and a 6+ invulnerable save, which is common to all Scutari units. These guys aren't a terrifying force on the battlefield. They're not necessarily an auto-include in every list, but I feel like they have a really good home in any AdMech list for a player that really wants to have a unit to get back into the opponent's deployment zone and harass some maybe backline units. They have a high complement of shots when they're equipped with the flechette blasters. The flechette blasters have 5 shots apiece, and with their high ballistic skill 3+ and a couple complements of stratagems, which we're going to discuss in a few seconds, they can really do a lot of damage. Where the AdMech have a few options for some close combat potential, I feel like these guys would be really good in a combat heavy list. They're probably one of my favorite units to use in 40k just because they really do a good job of harassing. My personal preference is to take the flechette blasters and taser goads. Taser goads give these guys +2 strength to their already strength 4, so they're striking at strength 6, and for every 6 you roll to hit, it's generating an additional 2 hits, which means you're going to get a large complement of hits through if you roll well, and those hits are going to be strength 6, so there's a good chance that they're going to wound. There's no AP value, but they're still going to be able to do some damage to some stuff that's maybe higher toughness that you want to reach out and punch. The flechette blasters at 5 shots apiece work really well with the Mars stratagem, which is the Wrath of Mars. 5 shots apiece for each one of these models. It's low strength, strength 2, but with the range and their ability to jump in 9 inches away from the opponent, you're going to guarantee get the whole unit to fire at whatever your target is. You can target something that has incredibly high toughness and not worry about the fact that your actual weapon statistics are going to do any damage. You're just hoping for those 6s to wound. Those 6s are going to inflict a mortal wound, and when you're rolling 25 shots for 5 of these guys, so a full complement 10 of these guys is going to be rolling 50 dice, the chances of rolling 6s is pretty high, and you're going to get at least 4, 5 or more mortal wounds on your opponent or whatever you're shooting at. They're not super points heavy, and like I said, with that strength 6 on their taser goads, you can charge in and do some damage to something that's high toughness that you've already done a few mortal wounds to. As for other stratagems, the Graia Forge World stratagem complements these guys a little bit in the sense that it gives you a 4+ negate psychic abilities power that when you're throwing a unit like this into the enemy backfield and it's a 24-inch bubble of basically being able to roll a dice and on a 4+, that psychic power is completely stopped. It's a pretty nasty little combo. So if I wasn't running them as Mars, which I do 90% of the time, I would consider that for this unit specifically. The other thing is Glory Mechanicus. These guys work really well when all the stars align. So when you're looking for the perfect canticle of the Omnissiah to go off for these guys, you might want to change your current canticle to something that complements their combat prowess. So you can change from having the Shroud Psalm giving them that bonus against enemy shooting attacks to something at a key moment in the battle to maybe bump their combat prowess and give them the much needed edge to take down whatever they're charging. Another good stratagem is the Protector Doctrine Imperative. This basically gives them +1 to their hit rolls in the shooting phase. With a 3+ already to hit, the potential of popping that stratagem, giving them the 2+ to hit for their shooting attacks. Also using the Mars stratagem for Wrath of Mars, giving them the 6s on wounds to do mortal wounds. And then also potentially having the Canticle allowing them to reroll 1s. The potential for these guys to get a ton of shots to hit and then roll those dice again to pray for those 6s is very high. That combination, it might be a bit of a sink for your command points in the sense that you're going to have to pop probably 4 command points worth of options, or 3 command points worth of options to get that to go off. But if it means removing something or removing a character, because these guys, again, with that infiltrate ability, are going to jump in, it can be really effective and really mess with an opponent's plans, especially if they're protecting a character behind their units. These guys pop in, snipe out that character, and maybe your opponent's battle plan just falls apart. The last stratagem I want to mention is Acquisition at Any Cost. Acquisition at Any Cost allows these guys to, it has to be activated at the end of your phase, at the end of your turn, but essentially until the start of your next turn, these guys are going to get +1 attack, and they're also getting +1 save. If they pop on the table and take an objective that you know the opponent really wants, and they're going to be pressing hard for, they're going to have to contemplate charging into combat with a big unit of these guys. Again, with those taser goads, strength 6 attacks is pretty nasty. Alternatively, they could have power swords also, which again, 2 attacks apiece, could get kind of scary. But the opponent has to choose whether or not they want to charge in and try to duke it out with these guys, and that +1 attack could be really, really scary also. As far as complementing characters with this unit, I wouldn't really worry about characters and auras around these guys. There's no real reason to have any characters close by. You want to save your auras for your heavier shooting units, etc. around them. And these guys are going to be jumping into your opponent's backfield, so you don't want to throw a Dominus into your opponent's backfield. I don't really see a reason for doing that, unless you're popping them in with a scary unit that's going to really threaten the opponent. And these guys aren't really that unit. They're more of a harassing force. All in all, I'd say the Sicarian Infiltrators are an excellent unit, an excellent inclusion in any force. Again, not a super competitive unit, but when used correctly, and again, when the stars align, they can be very terrifying for your opponent, and they won't see them coming, which is exactly the point of an infiltrator.
Sponsored by...
Thanks for watching Anvil of War Gaming. If you like our channel and you want to subscribe, click on the link on the screen. And if you want to check out more of our content, click on the videos. I forgot what I was going to say. So these guys are... I can't work under these conditions!